What happens when someone who was your ideal client no longer is because they've evolved? Hello, 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 and welcome to More Than Money, a podcast where we have nuanced conversations about money, business, and life, where we take the time to explore the human side of money because success with money is never just about the numbers. I'm your host, Jacquette Timmons, and whether this is your very first episode or one of many, I am really glad you've chosen to spend some time with me today. And before we get into today's episode, I'm curious, have you checked out the More Than Money workbook and its audio companion? If not, you should, because it is a combination that is designed to help you align your money with a bigger vision. Think of it as a holistic experience that blends practical tools like milestones, reflections, and rituals with emotional insights, all that coalesce to help you create a financial strategy that feels like, it's just custom designed for you. Ultimately, it's designed and created to help you increase your financial clarity, confidence, and self awareness. And all you need to do to grab your own copy of the audio companion and the workbook is go to jacquettetimmons.com/digital dash products. Again, jacquettetimmons.com/digital dash products. But now let's get into today's show. Now, in the previous episode, episode 269, I posed the question, is your pricing out of sync with your growth? And I raised it because I believe anyway, it's crucial to ensure that your price keeps pace with your evolution, your personal growth, along with the investments that you've made and that you continue to make to uplevel your skills and expertise. But guess what? You're not the only one shaping your business's evolution. Your clients are evolving too. They are experiencing changes that expand their capacity, that create new progress, that open more possibilities. And it's a combination that may shift their needs, their values, and their expectations. And sometimes the timing and the depth of their growth is in harmony with yours, and the connection stays strong and maybe even gets stronger. At other times, though, it creates friction, and a gap emerges, one where you may no longer be able to serve them as they need or want. So, what happens when someone who was your ideal client no longer is because they've evolved? This is an aspect of pricing that often goes unnoticed, and that is when your pricing doesn't keep pace with your client's growth. What might that look like in your business? Well, while you noodle on that question, let's talk about three ways in which your client's growth can actually surface. One is their financial capacity shifts. A client who once had limited resources may now be able and willing to invest at a higher level. If your pricing doesn't reflect that shift, well, they may begin to outgrow what it is that you have to offer. Or maybe it's the case that they outgrow the perception they previously held of themselves in terms of who they could work with. I share that because, look, I'm very comfortable in my own skin to admit that while I am excellent at what I do, I am not a celebrity coach. Yet, it was still quite sobering to learn that a couple of clients who didn't renew their coaching engagement started working with a celebrity coach. I do believe that entrepreneurs and business owners need to be able to articulate the value of their offer. But what that raises is that ultimately value, quote unquote, is in the eye of the beholder. And there just happens to be a term for this. It's called perception score. And that's why a change in a client's perception score of your products and services can affect you and your bottom line. It can be the reason why someone stops working with you and opts to work with someone else. So here's the second one: changed values and priorities. Life transitions, new goals, and evolving circumstances all may individually and collectively reshape what your clients most care about, and by extension, what they're willing to pay for. So, on the flip side of former clients who've moved on to work with a celebrity coach, there's another reality. Life happens. Life throws a curveball, causing a client to significantly scale back their business or return to traditional 9 to 5 employment because navigating family demands while navigating the inherent challenges of entrepreneurship has just simply become way too overwhelming. And your price could be $1 and it would still be too much. And I hope that what you're taking away, especially from that example, is that your pricing keeping pace with your client's growth is not necessarily predicated on the actual dollar amount. So here's the third way that it can show up. That's raised expectations. For the longest, regardless of your specialty, if you worked in the coaching or consultant space, the goal was to build a 6-figure business. Interestingly, around 2020, that goal post changed. It then became 7 figures. So if your client, who was once focused on building a 6-figure business, is now focused on growing it to 7 figures and beyond, they want to be in the literal and figurative room with like-focused folks, with like-minded people in terms of that being an aim. And here's the thing, growth often raises the bar. And as a result, your clients may expect a different kind of service experience or access or outcome. And your pricing needs to signal your ability to deliver on that. And what I want you to take away is that each of these examples of how your client's growth can surface can impact whether your pricing still resonates with them or whether it creates a subtle disconnect. And yes, your prospects go through the same deliberative process, but the truth is you have more insight about your client's growth and their experience on that front than you do with that of your prospects. I guess my whole point in this episode is this: as you grow, so do your clients. And sometimes you will continue walking the path together with your pricing evolving in step with their capacity, their priorities, and their expectations. And then there are other times when their growth will lead them in a different direction, and your pricing may need to reflect that. Neither outcome is good or bad. It is just simply the natural rhythm of business. The key, though, is to be intentional. Be intentional about noticing when your client's growth is creating a stronger alignment and when it is actually creating gaps in the connection. In the next episode, we will zoom in on a deceptively simple question, which is, what are you really paying for? Because whether you're the seller or the buyer, the transaction isn't just about the dollars exchanged. It's about values, priorities, and trade-offs. Sometimes those things are obvious, like money, and sometimes they are hidden and less obvious, like energy. But clarity here can completely shift the way you approach pricing, spending, and even decision making altogether. So stay tuned for the next episode. But in the meantime, here is my reflection question for you this week. How is your current pricing reflecting not just your growth, but the growth of your best fit clients? And if you're interested in joining us for the next Pricing Made Human experience, where we can help you navigate all of this, go to jaquettimmons.com/PMH experience. But for now, that is a wrap for today's episode, folks. Thank you so much, as always, for listening, or as maybe the case may be, watching over there on YouTube. If you like what you heard today, or you just appreciate this podcast overall, please do me a favor and share it with those in your circle, because when you do that, you help us to reach people we would not on our own. And if you happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts, please take a moment and hit that 5-star rating and give us a review, because it is a combination of both of them that helps us with the algorithm. And, if you happen to be on YouTube, leave a comment below so we can see you there as well. But here's one more shout out before I hop out of your ear and maybe off of your screen. Here's one more shout out for the More Than Money Workbook and its audio companion. And if you're curious, yes, we are still looking for alpha testers. Remember, it's designed to help increase your financial clarity, confidence, and self-awareness. And I hope that you will add it to your money toolkit. And of course, if you'd like to buy me a coffee, here's how you can do that. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette, buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette. Thanks again for listening or watching, as the case may be. I will be back with another episode, and I hope that you will too. Until then, remember, it's about more than money.